The following segment is a paid commercial program by Heritage Bank, member FDIC. It's time for Ask the Expert on News Talk 1340 and 96.3 FM, KWLM.
And time now for Ask the Expert here on KWLM. We're joined in studio by folks from Heritage Bank. Today we have Bob Mathiasen, Chief Operating Officer, and Jon, I was going to ask you before, Liesener?
Jon Liesener.
Liesener, all right. Sorry about that. Banking apprentice over there at Heritage Bank. Thank you both for being here today.
Good morning.
All right, Bob, just before we were going to go on the air here, we were talking about a great program in Wilmer, the KCEO program. They just recently had their trade show, which is another success, I've heard.
Yes. This is near and dear to my heart, this KCEO program. Not only did I have both my daughters go through this, and they both talk about how it was a life-steering sort of program because it really opened their eyes up to a lot of things happening in the business world, but it's also something that I've been involved with now for a couple of years as a board member. Heritage Bank has been a longtime supporter, one of the original supporters of KCEO. We are now what they call a super investor, which is something that we just started this year as a board. We recognize that these students, in next year there's going to be 22 students going through the program. They get this great exposure to a lot of the businesses and hear this entrepreneurial stories, but what was missing from the program was some of the small businesses that maybe can't afford to be an investor because that out-of-pocket would be too much. So the super investors are now subsidizing the emerging investors, and we're going to be able to introduce a whole nother layer of entrepreneurs into that program. So
great.
It's really exciting and something I'm really proud to be part of. Gary Geiger, one of the founders of Heritage Bank, or the founder of Heritage Bank, really brought this to our community. So it's fun that that legacy lives on for Heritage.
Yeah, and you guys offer that breakfast group as well. That's kind of a cool...
Yeah, we have a KCEO, we have a Heritage Bank breakfast group that was really the group that when Gary learned of KCEO, brought it back to that group, and that group all signed up, and everyone that was in the breakfast group back then is still part of the KCEO program. So.
Well, that's very cool. Yeah, we love it. It was part of our family as well. Our daughter went through it, and like you were saying with your daughters, it changed the whole perspective, and she saw things in a different light. Yeah.
Just being around more business people, more adults. For some of these kids, they just haven't had that much exposure, so it changes their perspective on things.
All right. Well, we're in the season of high school and college graduations. You're here today to talk about opportunities in banking. Do you think, in your opinion, colleges do a good job of preparing kids for the banking industry?
No. Really, you don't teach banking. I mean, there's components of banking that are touched on. You get some basic finance classes and you learn some funky equations and things that maybe translate. But for the most part, our industry isn't one that people logically get this degree, that means I'm going to go into banking. It's something that you have to kind of connect the dots to. For a long time, the larger banks would have these extensive training programs. I actually benefited from a great training program with Northwest Bank to start my career, but that's not happening anymore. So more and more we're finding that we need to find the right people and bring them in and then train them ourselves, and that's really what was the genesis of why we created this banking apprentice position at Heritage Bank.
Well, very good. So that kind of leads us to Jon. You're currently working at Heritage Bank as an apprentice, like we were just saying. Yeah. Tell us kind of what that looks like and how it's going for you.
Certainly, yeah. So jumped in right away last year in March and led right into the lobby experience. So was working with customers, didn't have any banking background to start with. So that really provided me with a base to start from, opening new accounts, working with deposits, helping customers from that touch point. And then from there, moved into customer experience, which is really, focused on taking in our customers' feedback and spinning that off, finding ways that we can improve the bank and better it based on those experiences. So certainly that really spread across the bank and helped me to see it full picture. Yeah. And now I'm spending a little bit of time in credit, which that's very complex and really helps us to protect the deposits in the bank and make sure it's a safe place for everyone. And from there, talking about the future here within the apprenticeship program, we're jumping into deposits,
Okay.
business banking, and then mortgage. So those are some exciting aspects and really awesome experience that has allowed me to sort of, take blocks and build upon them, right? Sort of filling in the picture of what banking looks like that, as Bob said, we don't really get in college, right? I'm a younger guy. I was in college, about 3 years ago. And with that, there are some aspects like Bob talked about, but what you actually take with you now into a banking role, you get to build that. And so very awesome that I've had this experience. About a third of the role has been learning. And now we have a lot of subject matter experts who are awesome at what they do. It's been really special to learn from them.
Right.
But then the other 2/3 has been, how can I deliver and produce and contribute to the team? And that's been something I've really taken personally, taken ownership of, and wanted to improve every area I've been a part of. And that's so big. So
there's so much to be said about on-the-job training per se. I think.
Certainly.
Absolutely. And there's so many different aspects of banking that you need that foundation of understanding because they all interrelate.
Right. Now, Bob, I don't want to age you at all, but you've been doing this a long time. How did you get into banking?
Well, one of the reasons I really, the apprenticeship program is something that is important to me is because I really started as a business banking trainee, which I was given the opportunity, but really it came down to, for me, I had a manager who gave me the bank loan policy.
Okay.
This is back in the days of 3-ring binders.
Sure.
And, every once in a while that we'd get an update, we'd have to go to section 4.5 and open up the clips and replace that sheet with a new one. And so I read through that, and I realized after about a week that there's not a very formal program here. I'm going to have to take the initiative to figure this out. So that was my intro to banking, and just started asking questions. And I hope John's experience is more organized and structured than mine was, but at the same time, it's kind of the same concept of bring someone in who has the right skill set, who has the right personality, who has the right potential to become something bigger, and give them the foundation that they need.
Yep. So, John, you've been in this a little over a year now. Is banking what you thought it would be? And do you think this is something you want to continue doing?
Yeah, it somewhat has been what I thought it would be. And also some aspects have been different, right? I know some common perceptions out there is a bank is really uniform, and it's going to be kind of boring almost.
Right.
Some people have said that out there. And jumping in, it's been totally the opposite of boring. Certainly, I've learned so much in a short period of time around the bank, right? Learning how our customer experience translates across, how credit really has an impact on the overall bank, and excited to continue learning and growing. Been really positive. I feel the bank has really fit my skill set, right? I know Bob talked about coming in with that personality, and really kind of ties into our values as a bank, and really it's building up that skill set, that banking knowledge that so many of our leaders have, and trying to work with them to understand and grow from there. A few of our values, really point and prove strong, I think, and some of the listeners might want to hear a little bit more about them. I know. Yeah. So we have 4 values: ethics, solutions, ownership, and positivity. ESOP. Okay. And with that, ethics is so big. Learning from a foundation at a bank. Banking's all about trust. You come in and you have money in your hand, and you trust it. You give it over to the banker in front of you. And so it's important that from a bank, we have very strong ethics. I know, KCO, we talked about Gary Geiger a little bit.
Yep.
He actually worked with the Rotary and working with some young business owners, had a 4-way test. And that included, it was truth, fairness, goodwill, mutual benefit for all. So when you're looking at a business, if you come in with those 4, most of the time you're going to end up in the right spot. So I thought that was cool. Wanted to call that out for listeners as you're taking a look. And But yeah, so as you work your way through solutions, ownership, positivity, a lot of those, I think it comes in, it really is important to come in with that right mindset in terms of moving wherever you're at forward. So urge listeners out there to keep that upward trajectory.
Yeah, that's good. Bob, we hear about this often in the news right now. How is it finding talent right now?
Yeah, it's still tough out there. Unemployment's low, which just by the nature of that means that there's not as many people looking. But we really put an emphasis on finding that right fit. We actually use a personality profile tool that we will not only use in the hiring process, but we'll bring out through the life of employment at the bank. Sometimes you have a rift between you and another employee. Well, you pull out the personality profiles and it becomes obvious. They're more slow and diligent and need more time to absorb, and the other person wanted it done yesterday. Well, how do we work together now that we understand each other? So, so we spend a lot of time looking at personalities. We're creating programs and opportunities to train people and teach them about banking. But banking has really shifted in the last few years. It's almost like we're becoming a technology company or a digital company whose product is banking. I'm finding myself hiring people that I traditionally wouldn't have looked for in a bank, and digital transformation officers and project managers, and it just every day it feels like I'm talking to more non-banking people than banking people, because that's what we need to be successful.
And you go back to your days of the 3-ring binder, things have changed.
It sure has. Yeah. Yep. John, when you were talking before, one of the things I wanted to work into this is, our philosophy at Heritage is I think a little bit unique. I'm sure there's other banks that would say that's not unique. That's what we try to do too. But and that is that we really want to work closely with our customers and get to know them and be almost like their personal consultant.
Sure.
And I'd love for those conversations to flow. And all of a sudden someone says, well, maybe I would need a loan for that, and we say, well, we do that.
Yeah.
Rather than leading with loans or leading with just the deposits, let's talk about this and figure out what the right solution is. And hopefully we have the tools in the toolbox when we figure that out.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. What roles are you currently looking for over there at Heritage Bank?
Yeah, well, first of all, like I said, this is college grad season, and if you do have a college graduate that's not sure what they want to do but wants to at least explore a career in banking, I encourage them to go to our website and apply, and go ahead and mention that you heard Bob and John on the radio and that's why you're applying. We'll make sure that you get a conversation and an interview with us. But we do have some needs right now. We're looking for some people in the credit risk area. We have some opportunities both in our Minnesota and our Sioux Falls market in that space. We are looking to expand our mortgage team. Mortgage has been down for a couple of years now, and there's actually a lot of people who have left that industry. We are optimistic, and we want to use this time to start building up our team. So we're looking for some people to help us in the mortgage space. We have needs in compliance and data and technology, more of those kind of backroom sort of roles, and then some project management I mentioned earlier. That's another thing that we seem to be adding a couple people there to help us with all these different initiatives that we have. So we definitely have some opportunities. And like I said, I encourage anyone who is just interested in exploring a career in banking to get out there and throw your name in the ring.
Right. Check out that apprentice program.
Exactly.
And then typically, we already answered this, but how long does that apprentice program go for?
Yeah. When John joined, we kind of said, let's plan on this being about 18 to 24 months. I mean, if we stumble into one of the stops, John would say, you know what? This is it. This is what I'm finding myself. I love what I'm doing, and I think this is where I'm going to want to be. Then, we maybe wouldn't go through some of the other phases, but, trying to get that whole well-rounded banker is going to be a benefit. So 2 years, basically.
All right. Well, very good program. If somebody would like to learn more, you have a great website for one, but how can they get a hold of you?
Yes. Like I said, they can apply online. Otherwise, our number here is 235-5720.
All right. So Bob and John, thank you guys for being here today.
Thank you, Eric.
All right.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you so much. Heritage Bank on today's Ask the Expert on KWLM.